Welcome back to Designing AI-driven Personalized and Adaptive Learning Environments course. In this week, we'll talk about the tools to develop personalized adaptive learning environments. So before we go recap for last 6 weeks, I think you have crossed the middle of the semester. So we started with the architecture of PAL. We started about the learner model, domain model, paid module, how can we create content, how can AI can help, all those details. Then we went on to detail of what are the domain model examples. We saw a couple of them, the rule-based models or constraint-based models. It's basically how do you structure the data. Data can be structured in any way you want, but how to label them and tag them, all those details. Then we talked about learner models like item responsive to understand the learner's ability using Then we talked about learner modeling. When we talked about item response theory, we talked about how to use the data from the responses, they like it or not like it, the responses. We use the maximum likelihood criteria to find the student's ability. Also, we match the ability with the question difficulty. That is the PED part. Then we talked about few PED modules, the few examples from the existing systems. Then we also talked about academically well-known personalized adaptive learning environments, or ITS. Those have been published, those details are there. There are many more ITS there in Indian context. There are a lot more in in the companies, industries, and academics. But if we don't have the much data about how they develop the PET module, how they develop the learner module, we can't talk about it. That's why we choose only the academically well-known PALs for the last week. In this week, can we create a PAL without coding knowledge? That's a main aim of this week. To do that, first we look at the 3 different architecture. There are many ways. The other one is called cognitive tutoring authoring tool. It is very famous, but recently the support has been discontinued. I was not able to download and recreate a demo. If I am not able to recreate a demo, I'm sure that you will not be able to do it. So we kept the systems which are still available as of speaking today. So these systems available, you could try it. So we kept those systems to do the authoring tools. The 3 things we talk about in this week is generalized intelligent framework for tutoring, GIFT. Here the idea of ITS is basically rule based. If the student performs 80% in the score, I would promote him to next content. If student fail, I'll give a hint. If student have not able to answer the question after multiple hints, I will give them different hints. Also, I can have a questions at a different difficulty level, low difficulty, medium difficulty, high difficulty. Based on those difficulty, I can adjust and change the content. So that's called a generalized intelligent framework for tutoring. I think we will talk about it in this video, and the demo of this GIFT will be happen in the next video. Then we'll talk about e-learning authoring platforms for interactive workplace training. Here we talk about how industry is using e-learning tools. Industries have a lot of learning and development sessions, and they do a lot of training for the employees across the globe. So how are they doing? Are they using any adaptiveness in this? No, their system also looks adaptive. What are they doing? Can we create such systems? It's one of the important topic and domain area, and a lot of will work on that. It's called IST. So that's the thing, we'll discuss that in this week. After that, in this era of Gen AI, why we started this course? So we started this course to say that PAL has been there for so many years, but with LLMs, we can create a PAL with a simple set of prompts. If you have a clear idea what is domain model, what you want a PET model, if you clearly define these steps clearly, you could able to create a system and prototype, and you can show it to anyone you want. That's the idea. So we will talk about Gen AI supported systems also in this week. For the GIFT, we will start about how to create ITS based on rules. If I want to start ITS from scratch, for example, I need to know about what is a cognition in that. I need to know the subject matter expert. Of course, I need to have subject matter expert in the detail of the questions, domain experts, everything. Then I need a team of software engineers. If I remove the software engineer, I have a domain matter expert. For example, I know what exactly I want to create, my content, and I know what logic I should give. Do I need a software engineer? That's the question. So that's why the gift is born. So also if you too much, if you want to create a software engineer and creating a system, we need a dependency increases, it's too expensive and a lot of time it will take. So instead of that, can we think about all the ITS commonalities and standardize the development? That is how the gift has been invented. The idea is that in each ITS, if I take the very basic ITS, what do we have? We have a content to teach. Content can be video, content can be PPT, content can be the PDF, or content can be image with all the voice over or with the audio. So there can be content as multimedia content. There are maximum 5 or 6 types of content. If I have a system which accepts all type of content, then we want to assess the learner using set of questions. If I have a set of question bank created and I can pull some 10 questions automatically, if the questions are arranged as per the difficulty level, tagged based on the labels of the content, can I create a instant Q&A, question answer assessment based on the student's response? Can you provide a feedback? That's the idea. Can we standardize this any type of content, one set of assessment based on performance? I give remedial content. That's how the gift has been generated. So GIFT is Generalized Intelligent Framework for Tutoring, and it's developed by US Army Research Laboratory to make training system chapters more effective, and they use mostly for their training the US Army soldiers. But what happened, it's kind of the philosophy they kept is like it's open source. They don't want to restrict to Army Research Laboratory. So they've opened this GIFT particular old software, open sourced to everybody. So you could download the old software in your laptop and you work on locally. That's what we used to do. Or there's a GIFT cloud. You could just go to the GIFT cloud and start working. It is written in Java, so if you know some Java, you can download the old code and start working on it. Or the GIFT the GIFT web tutorial is very easy. We just start using it directly. It's a domain independent framework. There's no dependency on the domain because the PET logic is based on the assessment. So we don't need to the domain, the math is different, the PET is different for science, nothing like that. They have set of contents, set of assessments. So it's a standard set of authoring tools for educators to build tutors. It may not have something like I want a simulator. I want some people to create some coding, the output has to give a feedback. It's not possible. It's a standard set in the sense, standard input types, video, text, standard set of example like assessments, question and answer, maybe MCQs, maybe drag and drop, some of points. Then standard set of remedial content. I can give remedial content, I can change, I can change the next type of content given, or the agent can come, or I can converse with the learners, I can talk to them based on set of responses. So that's the standard GIFT uses. So the GIFT is domain independent. So what happens is that the GIFT is built on the modules which we studied in the first 3 weeks. It has a learner module. It tracks all the students' clicks. So you don't need to worry about should I store the students' clicks, when the student log in, how much time they spent on it. Everything has been stored. So that's the major work. The students' clickstream data is stored automatically. Then there's a pedagogical module which like, do you want to give a hint? Do you want to give a feedback for the option selected? If you are creating an MCQ question, for the option 1, I would like to give a different kind of feedback, option 2 different feedback, or when to give remedial content, you could decide it. So within this particular standardization, you could decide what is your PET logic. Then the domain module for the course content assessments, you could create them, PPTs, PDF, then the question answer, you can upload them, it will automatically use them. So apart from these 3 modules we talked about in this course, they also have something called sensor module. For external data like I want to use EEG and I want to feed that data to the system, it is possible. I would like to use the eye tracking system, eye trackers. I want to feed the eye tracker data, feed into the system, use the eye tracking data to provide a feedback. It's possible. That's how the sensor module is created. But it was less used. For standard intelligent tutoring systems, standard I would suggest go with the existing learner module, PET module and domain module concepts. Thank you. I hope you learned something about GIFT. In next video, I'll show the GIFT demo. Then it will be very clear. Thanks.